Something I'm always curious about is how do you go about writing a song?
Um, I always did it. When I was little, I was always making up little songs. So I just hear it. I just like sometimes somebody will give me a piece of music, um, maybe a musician I'm working with, and I'll hear the song inside the music. I'll just hear it. Other times it will be a melody will start in my head. But usually the words and the melody come together, they just kind of arrive, and I'm really interested in that more these days, the allowing of the arising of the whatever's there, rather than sitting to craft a song.
Somebody once said to me that it's really easy to write sad songs and it's not easy to write happy songs, and I think you completely disprove that, because most of your songs are uplifting, are fulfilling, are expressing a joy or a peace or a beauty inside yourself. But what do you say, I mean, where do you think that came from, that thought that it's not easy to write a happy song?
Well, maybe it's because, I don't know. I've thought about this a lot actually, because somebody did actually once say to me, do you not ever sing anything that's happy? Because I think a lot of the songs are filled with nostalgia or questioning or a sense of, oh, where are you? There is a sense of that, I think, or there has been.
Yes.
And a lot of people come to the concerts and cry, but I don't think that's sad crying. I think it's like love crying. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I hear deep truth, when somebody speaks real deep truth to me, or I witness real love, I always cry, always, and I can't stop myself.
It's touching the heart.
Yeah. So I think it's that, but there is something about writing joy. How do you do that? And I did ask that question a few years ago. How do you write joy without slipping into saccharine sweet, which I don't like?
But I think and that's what I started. I don't think you do write unhappy songs, but you accept and you acknowledge the yearning.
Yes.
And the pain that has been. But for me anyway, I always experience that sense of hope and that. And it's a positive searching. It's like, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep learning.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me about your relationship with music and how perhaps it's changed over the years. Well, it has changed over the years. But in what have been the milestones, or what have been the big shifts?
Oh, there's been so many. But I do remember I was very driven as a young musician. Probably like a lot of musicians or dancers or artists were very in the beginning. It's like you want it so badly. It's all I ever talked about, all I ever did. I remember having dinner parties with other musicians, and they would bring their partners, and we'd make a pact not to talk about music, and it would last about 3 minutes. And we'd be back into, have you heard that new whatever album? Did you hear the bass line? It was like an obsessive. And I think maybe you have to be like that for a while. And I remember going to a workshop after finding the Brahma Kumaris and being a meditator for a number of years, and we had to define ourselves. I am, I do, I like, that kind of thing. And I wrote, I am a musician. And I thought, so I completely define myself this way, do I? And I did. And then as I began my spiritual practice more in earnest, that loosened, that tight-fitting role loosened. And I don't have that anymore. I don't need to be on a stage anymore, and I don't need it anymore. I did, and now I don't know. Life is creative.
So when you are on stage, what's going on in terms of what's going on between you and the audience?
I just love them. The reason I laughed is there's loads of stuff going on. What's happening with the monitoring? What's going on over there? Why is he playing that chord? So there's that going on, definitely. There's all that going there. And then there's this open, oh my goodness, look at us all here together. Aren't you beautiful? And and I'm feeling this connection and this connection. So the two are going on.
You said something earlier this morning about how right now silence is really important for you. You work in sound. Tell us a bit more about that.
And I'm not talking about just not speaking.
No.
It's more of a silence inside, and so I can hear what needs to come through. So it's, and I think, great musicians are the people who've done all the practice and the technique, and then they've moved beyond that. And really great musicians listen. They listen. They deeply listen. They don't need to play, actually. I think quite often, really young musicians, they're real technical wizards and they play a lot. But as you mature as a musician, you play less.
Like
And now, yes, you perform less. And now I'm really interested in the quality of one note. What is it? Can I be in one note? I like that. Can I be in one note rather than go la la la, do all that stuff? Don't need to anymore.
It's a lovely concept of one note, and I'd like to switch now to your kind of counselling work, and I know you have a lot of interest in authenticity. And is that connected in a way, that thing of staying in that one note or staying in that one place rather than all the influences?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure. Yeah. I suppose it comes down to I'm enough as I am. And, I'm working on that.
I think we probably all.
Yeah, because there's this feeling of I have to show. I mean, why, as a career, did I choose to be on a stage? What's that about? If I was enough as I am, would I choose to be in front of people? So I had to kind of look at that, know that. So yes, you're right. I think, and for me, deep authenticity is. This is me, all of me, and it's okay, as it is.
I know you've done a lot of work on yourself, but also that you created a lot of meditations around is this concept of acceptance and of letting go. Why is that so important? Why?
Because I don't want to suffer. So the more I can really breathe into the letting go of stuff that happens, of the story, of the drama, of the challenge, the less I have to suffer. I'm kind of sick of suffering.
And I know you give a lot of workshops and lead a lot of retreats on this. Could we have, in a nutshell, what are the kind of key steps when it comes to letting go, or when it comes to accepting or not resisting? What's helped you? What is helping you?
Well, I asked somebody whose wisdom I deeply respect recently, how do I let go? And they smiled and replied, well, the answer's in the question. How do you let go? How do you let go? Sort of thing Mike would say, isn't it?
It is, with a big smile.
Yes, exactly. But I suppose for me, what's helped me is the internal journey. The watching, and being kind when I can't let go. When I think I've forgiven, and then it comes back and I realise I haven't. It's like, oh, you haven't, but it's okay. You will. To stay with the intention. And I've, even called out, help me let go. When I'm holding on. So I suppose it's about being brutally honest when you can't, and then breathing into that and going, it's okay, because your intention is that you will, and you will.
In fact, those words, brutally honest, because in a way, yes, we have to be absolutely honest, but we have to be careful not to be brutal about it with us.
Yes, no, I agree.
Because we can do that, and I'm sure you see that a lot in the counselling work you do and the work you do. Is
in myself.
Absolutely, we're very good at being brutal with ourselves.
Yeah.
So how can we find that trust in the self? How can we find that, create that feeling of of self-acceptance, of self-confidence. How do you do it? What helps you? What gives you?
I suppose it's courage to dare to just feel whatever's there, to just sit quietly and go, oh, I'm terrified, and be there with it, not run from it, not hide from it, and try and soften to it, and it's not easy.
And just kind of practically on a day-to-day basis, are there things that you put in place in your life, or that you, sort of little disciplines that you set for yourself that help you?
Yeah, I always try and have some space for myself in a day. Certainly if I'm doing client work, regular space to just walk my dog, reconnect, to have some alone time where I'll use my mind either in affirmation or relationship with the divine, or different ways. I change it up a bit. And just, quiet time to sit with the self.
To change the vibration, otherwise we just do.
And then other things like, basic stuff like, do I drink enough water? How's my sleep? Is my environment supportive to me? I'm a bit of an obsessive cleaner. I have to hold my hand up to that. I like tidy. I'm a bit like that because that makes me feel kind of ordered. So I do create order around me. I like that, and that helps me just go. So there's practical things, I think, as well as the spiritual and esoteric things. I carry water everywhere because I'm trying to teach myself to stay hydrated.
Going back to the songwriting, if we can, how does your songwriting and your meditation come together? How does that?
Do you know what? They're the same. There's not really a. I listen. So when I meditate, I do various things when I meditate because there's the different kinds of meditation, isn't there? There's the focused, one thought practice. There's the breathing. There's the walking. There's the positive. I spiral upwards using a mantra, maybe. But songwriting is like a listening meditation. So I listen.
And is that a practice you do every day, or
regularly? Yeah.
And so, maybe you have meditation, or you're having a reflective walk, and an idea comes to you. Where do you take it from there? How do you capture it, first of all?
Well, sometimes sometimes it happens in Tesco's. So then you have to just keep singing it till you get home. So you've got it even at the checkout. Or ring. In the old days, I'd ring the answer machine at home, and if anybody picked up, no, put the phone down. Then you sing it on an answering machine. Nowadays, you can do it on your phone, can't you? But do you know what? I don't tend to do that very much these days. I just think, well, now's the time to be, to have a creative moment. So I'll just sit down and breathe, and we'll see what happens. And something always happens.
Do you think that your process of songwriting has changed now from what it was 5 or 10 years ago? If so, how?
Yeah, I think so, because it's become more flowing. I'm less controlling, less like, it has to be this structure. Because I don't have a record company. I don't have anybody saying we want a hit single, which it used to be in the old days. Can you write a hit single? Oh yeah, no problem. But now it's, I'm just creating for me, really. I'm talking to myself and having a chat. Well, and the latest album, The Road Least Travelled, is just my wrestlings with myself. And sort of coming through the other side and then writing about it.
And the actual kind of practical writing about it, you've approached it in a different way. I mean, you talked earlier about allowing yourself to be more silent, or is like to listen more, so to be less involved.
Well, the couple of the songs on the last album came from an eight-day silence, which was gorgeous. And then
8 days not speaking at all.
8 days no speaking. Living normal life,
Mm-hmm.
just warning your neighbours so they don't think you're rude. I'm not going to be talking. But just living a normal life, but being silent, and it's beautiful. And then I did 4 concerts in that time, so I just sang. I didn't speak, but I sang, which was lovely. And actually I did quite a few BK centres, and they all joined me in the silence. It was gorgeous. And so at the end of that period, I said to Marcus, let's go to the studio at the end of it, but we won't speak, we'll still not speak, and we'll see what happens. So a couple of the songs came out of that, and they're lovely.
And apart from your songwriting, just describe that experience of those 8 days of silence, how it felt, what you learned.
Well, I'll tell you one funny thing that happened. I came down one morning, because I was obviously in the house listening to, there's various conversations going on, and I'm just a listener and a watcher, so you start to feel like a bit of a detached observer of life. And then one day, but my thoughts are going on, and I'm watching my mind chatting, because my mind is chatting with the people, even though I'm not speaking. It's sort of joining in, going, well, I wouldn't do that, I'd say that. And then one morning I came down and I just started chatting to Marcus, and he's like, Luce, you're talking. And I'm like, oh, am I? And I'd lost the boundary between speaking and silence. I didn't know I was talking. I thought I was thinking. That was weird. That was weird. But I just really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I was on a silence retreat for about a week, and I remember feeling the loss actually when we came back into sound.
Yes.
I'd been with these people who I didn't know their names or anything about them, and yet there was such the feeling of harmony.
Yeah.
That had gone. But
yes. And it all seems a bit trivial, doesn't it? When you start chatting, you think, what?
And that's when the divisions come and the separations and the categorizing and all that.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to, it just, you recognise an accent or you think, oh, they're from there or blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's interesting.
But silence frightens people. I've had people come on retreats and say, well, we're going to have a day of silence, and they're really scared.
Because I think it's an unknown quantity, and it's not about...
No.
And it's not about being cold or being suppressed or whatever. It's actually a really comfortable space.
It can be, or it can be deeply uncomfortable. I have been on
I've
been on a 5-day silence where it was deeply uncomfortable because I was in a lot of turmoil, emotional turmoil in my life, and I can remember that being absolutely awful. Because of course you have to just sit with what's going on here, and if the here's great, then it's great. But if here's a mess, then
that's right. You can't kind of go off and be distraction or chat to someone else or whatever. You have to face it. But
but that to me is a good thing. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, you can do it with kindness.
But I think your point about, and I think this is often seen, silence is not just about not speaking, and it really is that silence of the mind. And how do I create that feeling? And for me, anyway, my experiences of your music is exactly that. It's and you put me right, but it's enabling, it's creating a space for people to go into that place of silence. I mean, talk a little bit, perhaps, I haven't asked you that question directly, about, when you're writing or even when you're performing your songs, what is it, the experience that you're wanting others to create for themselves out of that space?
I think the words are really important, so I always really enunciate, because I want the words to be heard, but I also know that music works on another level, so sometimes it's not about the words, and it's about the spaces between them, it's about the harmonic changes so that the heart opens for some reason with certain chord changes. So I don't really think about what I want. I think I just want, I don't know. I don't really have an
agenda.
No, I don't. I love it, and I hope they love it, and it's okay if they don't.
Yeah. I think you said to something in other places that you're hoping to enable people to, find some kind of connection with themselves or, with the divine or whatever.
Yeah.
So to kind of take us all out of that space of the into something that's deeper.
Yeah. I suppose that's what I'm looking for. So
Yeah.
so maybe that will speak to somebody.
What else can we share
Yeah.
except what we
Yeah.
have and what we're searching for?
Yeah.
You know, do you get weighed down by the response of people, because you are enabling people to experience things, and whether as a musician or as a counsellor, and they come back to you and they say, thank you, that really helped me, that was really good for me, and does that sometimes become burdensome? Is that right?
I'm actually quite detached from the music. I don't need people to like the music, and I think that's just as I've got older. I don't know, there's a kind of like, I do it and I put it out there and I don't think about it again. But then I do get a lot of amazing letters and responses, and I just pass that up because I feel like it's given to me and I just give it away and then I move on. The only thing I am aware of is the energetic stuff that comes towards me, and as I hopefully become a little bit more subtle, I am more aware of that. So I think there is some learning to do about protecting the self energetically, and my feeling is the best way to do that is connection with the source. I've always felt that if you just stick with that, you're safe, and I've probably dabbled in other births, so I know I'm kind of in this one I've got to just stay with the source. So my feeling is if I learn to do that very powerfully, I will be safe energetically.
What's the story behind 100,000
I
Angels?
don't remember much about writing that. It just sort of arrived. I think it was this idea that was being talked about a lot in the Brahma Kumaris at the time, was that, you know, we are capable of becoming angelic beings. That if we become subtle, more and more subtle, then there is that angelic quality within us. And so I was practicing a lot of I am a soul, I am a being of light, I am angelic at the time. And so I was seeing everybody as that. So it's like, oh, there's angels everywhere. So it was a bit like that. So 100,000 angels seemed quite normal.
So sometimes I hear you singing and I'm taken away by the music or the words, but sometimes the story. But sometimes it's simply the quality of the voice, and what's the training, or what's the learning behind that. Yeah?
Do you know what? My feeling is it's about it comes back to authenticity. It's like when somebody speaks and you believe them. There can be 5 people on a stage speaking, and there'll be one person who probably doesn't say very much, but they might say 3 words, and you just go, ah. So my feeling is the quality of voice has changed as I've become, hopefully, a bit more authentic. And, yeah.
In the session before, Pearl Jordan was talking about finding your own rhythm, and I think, Lucinda, you can talk about how you found your own voice, but also kind of encouraging us, whether it's actually physically the voice, but also kind of our inner voice, about it's for all of us to look at finding our own voice.
Yeah, I mean, I often get asked, can you give me any advice as a singer or a songwriter or as an artist? And I always just say, do you know what, tell the truth. Just tell the truth. Don't make it up. If your life is about this, say this. Don't try and fake that. Because I did that for years. I tried to fake, I don't know, writing what I thought they wanted me to write. Trying to fit into the latest trend that was going on. And in the end I just went, do you know what? I'm just going to write for myself. I don't care anymore.
It goes back to that stopping performing or presenting, and just...
Yeah. Don't care. And tell the truth. And enjoy it. It's a game, isn't it? It's a game.
It's a good game.
It's a great game. And thank you.
Thank you. Oh, great game.